Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing our deep dive into this Miami Hurricanes program, heading into spring practice, fall camp in the 2024 season. Last week, we took a dive into the Miami Hurricanes offensive line. This week, we have the defensive line on deck. And for the longtime Miami Hurricane fans who've been listening to the boys for the last couple months, many of you guys know how excited I am about this unit heading into 2024. You saw a very good Hurricanes defensive line in 2023. I think this is a unit that can be even better in 2024. Even when you lose a guy like Leonard Taylor, and you take a look at the young talent that is coming up for this Miami Hurricanes program on that defensive line, the additions that they made in the transfer portal, this is going to be one of the better units, not only in the ACC, but the entire country. And many of you guys know how I evaluate defenses. It starts up front, right? When you have the ability to stop the run on first and second down, pin your ears back, and get after the quarterback on third downs, that is how you play very good defense. And for the Miami Hurricanes heading into 2024, that looks like a unit that can be really dominant in that 2024 season. Really excited to get into this one. Yesterday night, an impromptu conversation that we had around the Miami Hurricanes and what defensive linemen they brought in that 2024 class. Now we're taking a look at the whole defensive line heading into 2024. Extremely excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Miami Hurricane fans. I mean, a program that's been a blast talking about in the transfer portal, on the recruiting trail, a ton of support. Truly means the world to the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you guys so much for all the support. And without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to do two things. One, take a look back at 2023. Went back and watched some film late last night and earlier this morning. Talk about what we saw from that unit in 2023. Look at the overall numbers. But then more importantly, I set to 2024. Who are the guys that Miami is going to lean on up front in that 2024 year? Now, going back to the 2023 year, I think I want to talk about one thing first. This Miami Hurricanes defensive line was elite against the run. And the numbers reflect that, right? 3.5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That was top 20 in the country. This unit was very good stopping the run. But I think the pass rush was something that was even better than what was reflected on the stat sheet, right? 7.3% sack rate for the Hurricanes in 2023. That was 40th in the country. That's a solid mark. But when you go back and watch some of the film and watch some of those games back, you start to understand that this pass rush was even better than what the sack numbers show in terms of creating havoc, creating quarterback pressures, forcing throwaways, and kind of forcing incompletions up front. This was a Hurricanes defensive line that consistently collapsed pockets, forced the quarterback to drop their eyes. So you look at the pass rush, and I really do think it was even better than the stats and the box score necessarily reflect. Second thing I absolutely love from this unit in 2023, and I think it's going to be a very strong suit for 2024's defensive line, is the versatility that they have up front. I mean, they have guys that can play the 3 technique, play the 5, and I think Ruben Bain is probably one of those that exemplifies it the most. You know, Lance Guidry wants to give a lot of different looks to opposing quarterbacks. And when you have the flexibility to kick a guy like Ruben Bain to the inside on third down and have him pass rush from the inside and move some guys along the front, I think that is absolutely massive. And you look at this Hurricanes unit heading into 2024, you have a guy like Ruben Bain who can certainly do that. I think you're bringing in a guy like Armando Blunt, who very similar traits, a heavy-handed guy that can play the edge but play on the inside. The versatility, I think, is going to be massive for this Hurricanes unit in 2024. And then looking at what I think I would like to see Miami maybe work a little bit better on is running some more stunts. And the Hurricanes had a ton of success running those stunts in games up front in 2023. I would like to see them do more of that. I thought they had a ton of success against Clemson running some of those stunts, and it's for two reasons. One, at the college level, I mean, offensive lines have a very tough time communicating, giving off stunts, and kind of following those pass protection rules. But more importantly, you look at the ability of the Miami Hurricanes defensive line. And why did Michigan have so much success running those stunts in 2023? Because they had very athletic defensive linemen. Miami has that as well. And so you're attacking an offensive line and kind of, I think, disrupting their pass protection rules, but more importantly, you're utilizing the skill sets that this Miami Hurricanes defensive line has. in terms of running those stunts, in terms of getting bendy and using their athleticism. I would love to see Lance Guidry do a little bit more of that in the 2024 season. Now, you look at what they have coming back in 2024, what they've added in the portal. That's what gets you really excited. Again, this unit was extremely good in 2023. I think it gets better in 2024. Even losing a guy like Leonard Taylor, who was phenomenal, took that step in 2023. And the first thing I want to emphasize is the depth. I mean, you take a look at former really, really good defenses, the Georgia Bulldogs, Michigan in 2023. They had game records up front, no doubt about that. But really what made that defense special is they had a ton of guys that they could rotate in and out throughout 4 quarters of a game, 12 games of a season, keeping those big bodies fresh. That, I think, is a massive asset. And you look at the Miami Hurricanes and what they have coming back. I mean, I have a laundry list of guys that I want to talk to. They're probably running maybe 14, 15 guys deep in terms of guys that they will be comfortable playing on that defensive line. That depth is going to be massive for Miami in 2024, especially when you have the goals that the Hurricanes have. And that is winning an ACC championship game, going to the college football playoffs, playing maybe 14, 15 games, keeping those guys fresh throughout a season, dealing with injuries that will inevitably pop up on that defensive line. I think this defensive line is suited with the depth to make a run in that postseason as well. And then you look at another thing that I really enjoyed when I was doing my deep dive is the balance between the veteran and the youth talent on this team, right? You added some guys like Marley Cook and Elijah Austin and CJ Clark, who are veteran guys that are coming in and have an extremely high floor. But you also have a ton of young guys that, again, that defensive line class in 2024 is absolutely loaded. But Ruben Bain, I mean, only going into his second year. A guy like Nigel Lee Kelly, only going into his third year, a guy that we thought was going to break out in 2023 had he not gotten hurt. So you have a lot of veteran talent, but you're also supplementing that with a ton of upside with the youth talent as well. Now, getting into the position groups and talking about some specific players that are going to be difference makers for this Hurricanes unit up front in 2024. It starts with the true freshman All-American, Ruben Bain. And what excites me most about Ruben Bain, he played 627 snaps as a true freshman. And as somebody who follows recruiting pretty closely, you see a lot of guys coming out of high school who are very sought after along the line of scrimmage. But it is very rare to see them kind of come and hit the ground running as true freshmen along the line of scrimmage. And Ruben Bain didn't look like a true freshman. That was a grown man. The power that he has in his lower half, the strength that he has in his hands, I mean, that kind of transitioned to the college level almost seamlessly. Now, what excites me most about Ruben Bain, and he's a guy that 26 quarterback hurries, a 17.7% pass rush win rate, 18 run stops, was a hammer against the run. What does it look like, Ruben Bain, going into year 2? Because that's normally when you see the jump. And if Ruben Bain makes a jump from what he did as a true freshman, you're looking at one of the premier defensive linemen in the entire country. And again, a guy that can win with the power in his hands, going speed to power, going right through tackles. But what happens when he develops some other pass rush moves and he gets a little bit more nuanced in terms of how he wants to attack offensive linemen? That's what excites me the most. And if you see a jump from Ruben Bain, I mean, I think you're truly looking at one of the more special edge rushers, defensive linemen, I should say, in the country in 2024. And then you continue to scroll down the list, and this is where the depth really gets highlighted. I mean, Akeem Mesidor, who was amazing for Miami in 2022, had 10 tackles for a loss and 7 sacks. I mean, largely missed most of the year with injury. Guy like Nigel Lee Kelly, someone that we thought would really step up in 2023, also allowed with this out for the season with injury. You're getting 2 of your best edge rushers coming back for the 2024 season that didn't even play significantly for Miami in 2023. And then you start talking about some of that young talent and the veteran guys that you added on the edge. A guy like Elijah Austin coming from Marshall, 21.5% pass rush win rate, over 20 quarterback hurries, 21 run stops. Elijah Austin, I mean, that's one of those examples of, you know, we're really good up front. We're just going to get even better. And so you add Elijah Austin, you have a guy like Jaden Wayne, who I think you're expecting to see that year 2 jump. And then you have some freshmen that are coming in, I think are going to play early, right? Armando Blunt kind of reminds you of Ruben Bain in terms of the power that he has. Now, you might see some growing pains for someone like Armando Blunt because he did reclassify from that 2025 class. So maybe it takes a couple of weeks for Armando Blunt really to get his feet wet and be a contributor. But after watching Armando Blunt in high school, it's hard to see him not playing some sort of a role for the Hurricanes on that defensive line. And then what excites me is that you have a lot of pass rushers that want to just go right through tackles, right? Kind of Mack trucks. We're just going to go speed the power and we're going to go right through, collapse pockets, be disruptive. You bring in two guys in Marquise Lightfoot and Booker Pickett Jr., who are a little bit of a different breed in terms of that speed rush, that burst and bend off the line of scrimmage, challenging tackles athletically, bending that corner. It's kind of a new addition and new skill set added to this defensive line. Now, they are true freshmen, so we'll see how much they get on the field during their first year, but it's a different kind of pass rusher than what the Miami Hurricanes have. And a guy like Marquise Lightfoot, I think, is one of those guys to keep an eye on. He needs to put on some weight, probably get up to 230 pounds. If he does, I think he's going to be really special. Booker Pickett Jr. has a little bit more ways to go in terms of getting that body right, but you have two guys in Lightfoot and Booker Pickett Jr., who that if they do get that body right, are going to be freaky pass rushers for the Miami Hurricanes, whether it's in 2024, whether it's in 2025. They're coming, and they're coming in a big way. And then you look on the inside, you add some guys in the portal who we'll talk about, but I want to give a shout out to Jared Harrison Hunt, who I don't talk about enough when we talk about the Miami Hurricanes defensive line. Was largely kind of a solid player in 2022, wasn't really a difference maker. I mean, he was really good. Upon watching some film back this morning and last night, really impressed with what he did, and kind of got overshadowed because Ruben Bain and Leonard Taylor were being freak shows. Jared Harrison Hunt, 22 quarterback hurries, 16 run stops, a 10% pass rush win rate. I mean, he did some really good things on the inside in 2023. What if we get another step from him? You're looking at a very good interior defensive lineman. CJ Clark, I think a body that they needed. And a guy like CJ Clark, when we talked about him committing to Miami, not necessarily going to be a guy that stuffs the stat sheet in terms of sacks, tackles for loss, but he's going to be a guy that, one, linebacker's best friend, because he's going to stand up double teams, allow those linebackers to fire downhill. He's going to win at the point of attack. The Hurricanes needed that kind of body, a guy that's not necessarily getting all the penetration and getting the tackles for loss, but allowing for the linebackers and other guys on the inside of that defensive line and on the edge to kind of go feast. So CJ Clark, another massive addition. Marley Cook, somebody who can get penetration. Really excited about him and making that jump from that group of five to the Power 5 level. You have a guy like Josh Horton and Ahmad Moten, who I think you're excited to see the progression that they have. And then you bring in a guy like Justin Scott, who, again, similar to Armando Blunt, you take a look at the high school film and say, it's hard to see Justin Scott not playing early for the Miami Hurricanes in 2024. So you take a look at the edge rushers, you take a look at the interior defensive linemen. One, star talent is there, right? Guys like Ruben Bain, the true stars of college football. But more importantly, when I'm doing this deep dive, and we just talked about probably 12, 13, 14 guys that I think are going to be contributors for the Miami Hurricanes up front. You talk about depth and talking about rotating and keeping those guys fresh. This is a unit that has that depth that maybe wasn't quite there in 2023. They had the guys, but Ruben Bain, again, was playing almost 650 snaps. Leonard Taylor playing a lot for the Hurricanes in 2023. What does Ruben Bain's production look like? And I'm not saying you're taking Ruben Bain off the field much, because he's an absolute dog. You want him playing a lot of football, but if you're able to keep him fresh, rotate guys in without the level of play necessarily dropping in any significant manner, he's probably going to be even more of an impact when he's on the field. And so what I'm most excited for is, yes, the star talent and the talent on this defensive line is incredible, but I think the depth is going to be what separates Miami and kind of takes them up a notch on that defensive line. Partly why I'm so high on this unit heading into 2024. That'll do it. And that's a long recap. I know I spit out a ton of names, had a lot of names I wanted to talk about. We got the Miami Hurricanes offensive skill position coming up next week. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. I think we're going to do a Miami Hurricanes Junior Day preview a little later this week. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.